Thanks for joining us on Special Topics and What Doesn't Kill Us, part of the What Doesn't Kill Us horror channel of the Fight or Flight Network. I'm Noel, and I'm here speaking with Crystal, one of the founders of the network. I can say that, right?
Sure, yeah.
Because it's true. So, as you know, I'm just talking to everybody about following up on Brady's idea of everybody talking about what scared them the most when they were kids. And I guess that's a different question than what got you into horror. So I guess there's really two questions there. So, but it doesn't have to be movies, because I know for me it was probably TV that really got you.
That really scared me. It might have been movies because my mom used to bring home some crazy stuff.
Right.
It was probably something to do with Betty Davis. I think
I was not expecting that.
Really? Well, Watch Her in the Woods.
Oh my God, I was watching that. I was looking at that today.
Terrifying. Yeah, for a kid, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's pretty progressive when Disney used to do dark films.
I know, yeah.
And did not apologize for them.
Right.
And this was one of them. And I just remember being super creeped out by the whole thing. And even earlier, remember, it might be around the same time, but my mother would take me to visit my aunt. And they would talk, catch up as sisters. But I was just sat in front of the television, and my uncle would be playing, Alien,
Wow.
Aliens, anything that's like whatever the blockbuster was around that time, 80s. And they would have their, home video system very loud. And I remember the scene in Aliens where she has the nightmare, and the cat hisses at her, and you can see something poking out of her belly. Terrifying.
Oh my God. How old were you?
Oh, it's way too young. Probably under 10 for sure. And, that kind of stuff scared me. And then somehow I turned over and just became fascinating to me.
But it's so weird that you're at home or you're with family and there's like noise and people are coming and going and nobody thinks that's an R-rated horror film on TV right now.
No, absolutely not.
Little Crystal probably shouldn't be watching it or around it right now.
Exactly. I remember going to an R-rated movie way too young. I think the first one in the theater I saw was Rising Sun with Wesley Snipes.
Rising Sun. I don't know.
It's like an action thriller, but I remember there is a relatively explicit sex scene, and to a young kid, I was like, "What?" I didn't even. It was some kind of oral sex or something, and I remember thinking, "Is that a thing people want? I don't understand how this works." And I remember it just like burning into my memories. It's probably very tame if I watched it again, but
sure. But at that age, and were you with parents watching that movie?
Oh yeah, my mom took me. She was never really one to hide the truth from me, so.
My mom was like that too, yeah. Was your uncle particularly interested in horror and sci-fi, or just whatever the blockbuster was at the time? It doesn't matter what genre.
Yeah, he just loved big action and sci-fi movies. The classics. He had all the classics, and he really, really loved his sound system. So he would, get the latest and greatest speakers and stuff like that.
So even if you weren't watching it, you could hear the horror in the other rooms, right? Wherever you were in the house. That's
and
funny.
I tended to watch them, no matter what, because boring adult talk. I don't want to be part of that. And then I would just be like in front of the TV and nobody knows.
It's so funny the way these things happen, and the parents they don't realize quite. It doesn't seem the same as going into the movie theater,
Exactly, and she probably, and I've mentioned this to her several times. You did this to me, right? She's always asking, why do you like such morbid stuff? Why do you like all of this extreme stuff? And I'm like, I think it started with that. So thanks, Mom.
That's funny. So do you think it was, do you remember narratively or thematically what was going on in Watch Her in the Woods? Did that have a part of it? Or was it just really just general kind of spooky terror, fear, horror film stuff?
It was definitely a very moody film, and it was about ghosts. And even though the ghost wasn't the central part of the story, as far as I remember, it was still appearing and leaving messages. And it freaked me out. And my mom, she was a bit theatrical too, and she would kind of like, kind of, I think she enjoyed it. And she acts like she doesn't enjoy it, but she totally loves this kind of stuff.
Horror movies
yeah.
So do you guys watch them together?
If it's something more like Crimson Peak, she's
Yeah.
so down for that.
Right.
I definitely got into more in the extremities and foreign stuff.
Right.
But she's always down for the, Mama, Crimson Peak, anything to do with aliens.
So she's into sci-fi too.
Yeah, just especially the classic stuff and the scary monsters. She'll talk about them being horrifying, but then also kind of like watching.
Interesting. So she doesn't understand your taste in the really more modern and more extreme and sort of more bizarre stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah. Has your interest in horror been consistent since that time up until the present, or did it come and go? Did you get interested in other things too?
I think, well, I definitely was into other things as a kid. I was really into animals. I was more into maybe making a career out of animal care or something,
Oh.
or even something to do with oceanography. That kind of stuff was interesting. I was always a Disney fan. Like every single Disney movie come out, I would see it. And I don't know, I think there was a point at which I found horror movie utterly fascinating, and I think it started with The Ring remake.
Oh, okay.
And as soon as I saw that, and in my opinion, it is one of my favorite horror movies. Just Gore Verbinski did such a good job with mood, atmosphere, big budget, introducing a new monster to America,
Right.
and really terrifying me to the core. Where I had a TV in my bedroom and I did not sleep that night. That starts me on a path. And that was also the time I started getting into Japanese animation, foreign films. It was all a gateway experience from that time on. And then I realized what a beautiful work of art horror films could be, and kind of analyzing it a bit more and actually, just retaining a lot of film knowledge.
So that catapulted you back into the horror world, or a different aspect, a different sort of branch of the horror thing?
Well, I mean, that was around the time that I started, collecting data on horror film, or not just horror films, but films in general, directors' names, actors. Started noticing names.
Right.
Starting getting into film and film scores. And in high school, I was a band geek for sure, and I kind of wanted to switch from being involved in animals to being involved in writing scores for films.
Oh, interesting.
And I was just falling in love with cinema at that time.
Right, I see. It was a broader kind of cinematic, turning into a cinephile, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
And you were in high school. This is all taking place within high school. And then did you hook up with people who were similarly interested in cinema in the same way?
Yeah, I was working at Best Buy at the time, and I started dating this a bit of an older guy, but he was so fascinating, and his film knowledge. He showed me all these cool foreign films that I'd never heard of, and just that was a huge gateway into my foreign and indie film knowledge and everything.
And once you got all the information you could out of him, you dumped him, right? I mean, that's
No, it's just I think our age difference was the problem there, but he's still a fantastic person and so interesting. I think he does a lot of podcasting and reviews and stuff still.
Oh, really?
To this day.
Oh, wow. So you might be listening to each other and not knowing it, or not telling each other about it.
No, we're Facebook friends. I keep up
that's
his stuff, so he might listen to this. But yeah, it's a shout out. Hey, thanks for showing me all this cool stuff.
And how much of your cinephilia and your interest in film, and how much of it was horror, do you think? It wasn't all horror, obviously.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't all horror, but when I started going to college, especially meeting Monica and several other people, Brady, and we all shared this I kind of showed her a few of those cool Japanese films, and we started showing each other our favorite movies, and we both sort of kept getting into hey, have you seen this horror movie? And and that was just super fun to just share, because a lot of people don't want to approach horror, and it kind of felt like a nice, a little club sort of, that we are able to embrace it and watch it and discuss it without, being like, oh, it's so icky or scary or anything, and we'll just discuss it as an art piece, or kind of take the fear away from it.
We'll also take the stigma away from it.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like there's a whole stigma on just genre filmmaking in
Yeah,
general,
yeah.
which is my favorite. My favorite part of cinema is genre because it's taking the extremes.
Right.
It's where I appreciate dramas that are about real life, but I also feel like those are a bit boring to me on premise alone.
On premise alone.
You
So
know,
is this thing going to be about like real life? Because that's like
oh,
not.
exactly. That's how I felt
As a
for a while.
premise, I'm not really into that.
Yeah.
So, when did you start getting into when did you really start looking at the very extreme stuff?
It was probably I was probably around 18 or 19.
Wow.
I started. I watched Irreversible. I watched
At
some.
18? Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh
it
my
was
God.
intense. I watched. Tarantino films are
They
a
are
good
pretty
gateway
extreme,
to
yeah.
extreme violence. Natural Born Killers.
Mm.
Robert Rodriguez films. And then I started watching J horror, like
Yeah.
extreme ones like Takashi Miike
Yeah.
movies and the Ju-on films. There's a series of films that were before The Grudge, with
Hmm.
starring the same ghost family,
Oh.
and those are pretty intense. And Monica and I watched all of them, and they are messed up. Let's see what else. Oh, The Three Extremes, like I was saying, those are great short films.
Right.
Audition.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen
Um,
that.
I remember seeing The Descent with Monica, and just oh man, that was great. I'm a bit obsessed with creature design
Oh,
as
okay.
well, and that's kind of what I want to end up doing career wise.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. I know that Monica's interested in that too, or at least makeup effects and stuff like that. She's talked about. Well, I guess all of you have, because it's a big part of horror, right? Is
yeah.
that craft? What would you say? What were some of the earliest and best or scariest kind of creature design things that you encountered as you
Um,
watched?
Let me see. Definitely, uh, Alien was
Yeah.
huge. Like just classic, amazing designs.
Yeah.
Uh, Predator's more silly, even though I like the design. It's just like a cool dude with dreads, basically, a lizard guy with dreads. I love I think my favorite character designs of all time are in the Hellboy movies. There's and Pan's Labyrinth, of course.
Right.
The
That's
guy with
right.
the eye,
Yeah.
hands, and in Hellboy 2, there's this Angel of Death creature. He's only in the movie for 2 minutes, and it's the best character design I've
Mm.
ever seen. Um,
So of course that's why you're such a fan of Del Toro. That's why you're so passionate about his work, because he puts so much effort and time and thought into all of that stuff.
Definitely, and it just makes the movie come alive to me when creatures look like that. American Werewolf in London
That's a
is
classic, yeah. In terms
huge.
of yeah, yeah. In high school, were you a secret horror fan, or were you like, because I know Brady talked about dressing in black, and and I think Canada even talked about being a goth, which really shocked me because she's so not that, and I have. Were
Oh yeah,
you kind of wearing it on your sleeve that way, or was it really just you said you were also a band geek and sort of into science too to a certain extent?
yeah. I was a band geek, but I was definitely shopping at Hot Topic. So
So you guys all would have been
we would have
friends.
gotten along.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, that's
we would hang out
interesting.
together for sure.
That's so
Um,
interesting. Huh.
the black pants and like long sleeves and black nail polish, of course.
Wow. So everybody
Yeah.
really did that. That's amazing. So what I mean, is there anything you wouldn't watch? Because you've seen some extreme stuff. I don't
Mhm.
know. Is there anything that you wouldn't watch, or that you would tell people just don't watch? It's too
I
much.
would never watch a Serbian film. I know about some scenes, and it's just not for me. I don't need to see it. It seems like it was made just to make people sick. Um, and Monica and I actually went to a screening with the filmmakers to see Human Centipede, the first
Oh,
one,
uh-huh.
and we were very disappointed because it's just a terrible movie.
It didn't
And
live up to the hype.
oh, it wasn't even, you know what? It wasn't even gross enough to live up to like the initial premise and the trailer. The gross and your
Yeah,
imagination
of
is the
course.
grossest part about the movie.
It's almost always like that. Yeah, what you
Yeah, and
imagine is so much worse.
exactly.
What
And the movie
did you
itself was like,
did you say anything to him in the Q&A, or did you there wasn't
no,
anything
we
to
were nice.
ask?
We're just like, oh, that was no good. Um,
So
but
I'm surprised that you haven't seen a Serbian film, just because, well, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it either, and I was talking to Brady about it, and I said, even the whole idea sounds so preposterous. I mean, of course, everyone talks about the baby rape. I thought,
yeah,
how do you film that? It would be like you'd have a plastic baby on the end of your
I
thing. It's
know.
so
I
stupid.
have no
And
idea.
but he
And
did say it's messed up, and if Brady says something's messed up, then it probably is,
it's
because
probably really messed up.
because because he lives on a pretty steady diet of gore, and so if it gets to him, so you do draw
Exactly.
the line. I mean, you
I
don't,
mean, I don't like child rape.
yeah.
Like I mean, of course, but I don't like seeing it in films unless there's a reason to
Yeah.
show it.
The
You know
question
what I
is
mean?
there a compelling, does it need to be shown to make the movie
Exactly.
work, or to make the story work, or any? Yeah. No, I agree
Yeah,
with that.
abuse is very uncomfortable
Yeah.
unless there's a reason, and that's why Monica and I will say forever that our favorite extreme horror film is Martyrs, where it does need the way they tell the story. It really does a beautiful and eloquent.
Yeah, it's
You know,
justified.
yeah, I mean, Last House on the Left is a very nasty film, but there's a reason for it.
Yeah,
There's a
right.
whole narrative that and I have I love movies about revenge, and we'll get into this when we
Mm.
talk about I Saw the Devil.
Right, right.
So revenge films are always fun for me, and
Mm.
it blew me away to see stuff like Kill Bill and um, uh, the Korean films like Sympathy for Lady Vengeance and Old Boy and all this stuff, and how that can affect you. And
I've
uh,
been.
I thought of another film that I refused to watch, and it's Precious, actually.
Oh, I haven't seen that either. I'm not really interested in that. Yeah,
There's a ton of abuse that I hear, and it's like I don't need to see it. I
yeah,
mean, I know it was probably important and life changing to some people, maybe people to make some changes, but I that much abuse I can't really.
yeah. Was there a film you saw that crossed the line, and you said, "I'm not going to go down that road anymore"?
Um, no, not really. I haven't. It's just the ones that I've already chosen not to see. Even brutal. If there's a brutal rape scene in a film, if it's gonna work, it's gonna work. If it didn't work, I either talk about why it doesn't work, or I disregard and forget the movie
Right,
entirely.
right. So
Um,
you thought that Irreversible, it was justified, it worked for you?
I felt like at the time when I saw it, I haven't seen it in a while, but as an experiment in taking a film backwards to forwards, I
Hmm.
thought that was a very interesting way to do it. I forgave a lot at that time because things were just new and different.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You do start to become more refined in your taste as you go, and
Exactly.
less
I probably
forgiving.
wouldn't like it now. And I'm not saying I really liked it
Right,
then,
right.
but it's kind of I feel like it's almost a badge to wear as a serious, extreme film
Yeah,
fan.
right.
I've seen it. These are my thoughts about it, but I haven't seen it recently. And I bet I would have the same opinion as you that this is just awful. And I know my husband feels the same way. He's like, there's no reason for that movie to be made.
Really?
And it's just, it was too long. And the rape scene is like 10 minutes.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
like, you don't need it to be quite that long, even though they are trying to justify the murder at the beginning of the film.
Mm. Even though
That
it's totally preposterous.
and something I was going to mention too, that I don't find realistic threats frightening. I tend not to find realistic threats something to make me not lose sleep over, basically.
Oh, that's
In horror
interesting.
films,
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know why. The serial killers don't scare me at all. I never, like, if there's a monster, like a big shark, or birds, or serial killers, or creeps, or a gang, it's like never ever, like, home invasion films
Really?
never scare me.
Wait, you were nothing that happened in your next gave you any anxiety or
Oh no,
stress?
not at all.
Oh my God, that's so funny because that to me, like a gang or something that could happen. I mean, that's the old, like that could really happen.
Yeah, I don't know why. And in the movie, while I'm watching, experiencing the film, of course I'll be into it
Oh,
and
okay,
I'll have
okay.
anxiety while I'm in it, but I'm saying it's not a long lasting effect for me.
You wouldn't have nightmares or bad dreams about anything
Real.
quote unquote real.
Yeah,
Wow, that's a mind blower. I never knew that, or I wouldn't have guessed that necessarily.
it's very strange. That's why, and I wanted to discuss a paranormal activity, uh, since Monica brought it up in her interview.
Oh, okay.
It was the latest one that scared both of us enough to lose sleep over.
Really?
Yeah, and I we were both brought up in a religious background. Her way more than me, but I don't know. I just thought the plausibility of aliens, ghosts, demons, spirits, and stuff like that are were kind of believable to me as a child. So like that, those kinds of irrational fears. No matter how rational I am when the lights are on, as soon as they're off, I'm just like staring at my bathroom, waiting for something to happen. And Paranormal Activity was so effective
Wow. You guys saw it at the
for
theater?
us. Yes, we saw it in the theater together, and I remember both of us lifting our feet up off the ground because we didn't want anyone to grab our feet.
In the movie
And,
theater?
yeah, in the movie theater, we were all just and seeing a movie like that in a theater is so much fun
Yeah,
too
yeah,
because
yeah.
everybody's into it.
Screaming and freaking out, yeah.
Yeah, and then we both had to. We came back to our because we were roommates at the time. Came back to our apartment, and I was living with my boyfriend, who's my husband now, upstairs, and she had to go to sleep by herself, and she was so mad at me. But we watched like Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus just to calm down.
That same night?
Yeah, that same night we're like can't sleep right now.
We need to watch another horror film, but one that's not so scary, one that's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, one that's ridiculous.
To undo the trauma. Do you mind if I ask which religion you were brought up in? Because I didn't know that about you.
Oh yeah, it was Seventh-day Adventists, but we
Oh,
weren't very strict about it. We went to church sometimes. My grandmother was the organ player in the church,
oh,
so she went every weekend, and so did my grandfather. But my mom and I kind of went, and then kind of didn't sometimes. But I still like when I was a kid, I believed in all that stuff. So demons were super scary, and my mom was very interested in them. So she would like tell me about paranormal, like phenomenon, and she had that book. What was that book, Communion, about the alien abductions? And I remember I was so scared of it, I had to turn it over because I didn't want it looking at me.
right.
That stuff was so scary.
How would
Like,
you describe religious supernatural beliefs versus non-religious supernatural beliefs? Or am I wrong in thinking that believing in demons and believing in ghosts, that is religious? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even
I mean,
sure.
yeah, I mean, I feel like it is because if you believe in spirits, then you believe in an afterlife.
Yeah.
You believe in something. And I always, at that time, and maybe even a little bit now, I mean, I can't explain everything, but ghosts or spirits, presence, some energy, I think, isn't, even if it's not actually an afterlife, I think people's energies might affect a home after they die, or a
Hmm.
room, or strong feelings perhaps, and maybe that's where all these ghost stories are coming from.
Hmm.
And I find it fascinating, but I also know enough not to like mess with that stuff. I would never like do a Ouija board. That's stupid.
Really?
Oh, never. I would never do it because I know like I'm not tempting the fates.
But when you were younger, would you have wanted to do that? Would you have wanted to do like a Ouija board thing or a
Probably not.
craft thing,
Yeah, yeah, the
like the
crap.
craft?
No, I think my rebellion with transgression was probably more with the extreme music that I listened to.
Oh,
that, Black Sabbath was supposedly, this bad. I'm like, it's like grandpa music now. It's like, it's
but
great, but
but
it's
there is a
like,
connection between black heavy metal or black metal or whatever, all the different subgenres of that, and beliefs in sort of rebellious spirits and rebellious demons and stuff like that, and hail Satan and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
sure.
you were just flirting with that? You weren't like embracing that in any kind of serious way?
Yeah, I guess I kind of enjoyed the idea of sort of, not believing any of it myself, but enjoying the music and the adrenaline and the rage that's in
Yeah.
it without uh, believing in, this or that.
Now, do you consider yourself religious now?
Uh, Not really. I consider myself more very open-minded to whatever,
Hmm. Mm,
and
interesting.
I feel like it's pretty foolish to say one way or the other because we don't know until we're
Right,
dead.
right. In terms of the afterlife, that's right. So right now, in terms of horror, what is your main? I mean, have you seen a through line in terms of your interests? Has it? It's always been non-real fears or horrors from the time that you first got into it up until the present. Has that always been consistent?
It tends to be my favorite ones. Are have to do with supernatural stuff or monsters, creatures, ghosts, demons. I have a soft heart for or a sweet tooth for exorcism movies.
Oh yeah. No,
I
those
like
are.
those. Those are really fun. I love the ghost movies like Poltergeist.
You like
Um,
Sinister and Insidious and all those?
yeah, I think Sinister and Insidious aren't as great as the old ones. Of course, they're just kind of and Insidious is kind of more astral projection and
Right,
a little bit of sleep paralysis. Which I hadn't mentioned in this interview. The
right.
sleep paralysis stuff, which is super scary too.
I didn't want to
Um,
bring it up, but I mean, unless you want to. I know it's in. Well, what's interesting is the two film things of yours that I've seen are both super genre, and the horror short film that you made seems to be a reflection, or it's about sleep paralysis essentially, or it's a vision of it, and it is really terrifying. It's so
yeah. Oh,
disturbing. It's really disturbing. It is.
oh,
You've
thank
got,
you.
yeah, I
I
mean, it's a beautiful little
yeah.
film, and I think it definitely, because it doesn't use cliched images. Like, that's an image, the image you conjure up for the paralysis itself. I guess it is, like you said, a version of the Fuseli painting of the little demon on the sleeping woman. I mean, it's only the vaguest it's an abstracted version of that,
Yeah.
and it's more contemporary, and in that sense I think it's effective in that it's very modern in a way in terms of how it feels and the materials and the materiality of it and everything.
That's how I felt when I was in the middle of sleep paralysis.
Hmm.
I've since not really had any episodes.
Oh, thank God. Oh,
Um,
that's fantastic. Do you know how you got over it or how you were able to stop it? Was it making the
I,
movie? Getting it out of your system?
it wasn't. I think it started really trailing off once I started dating my husband.
Really? Oh,
S-
wow.
Sleeping alone really sets it off a bit more,
Oh, when
I
he's
would
out of
say.
town and everything, you start to get a
Yeah,
little bit more edgy or whatever, or you don't have it full blown.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
I never, the extreme cases like in the Nightmare documentary. There's people that have it every single night. I never had that, but it was when I was in college. It was probably weekly, and then it just slowly dissipated. And then, when I stopped sleeping alone, that really helped. It's also, I believe it's genetic because my sister has it too.
Oh, okay. It's not as simple as just daily stress or life stress, because
Yeah,
that's
I don't think so.
it's more than that, or it's something deeper than that. But do you connect that at all with your interest in horror, or is that just kind of a separate whole, like a biological thing almost?
Yeah, that was a whole separate. Like I was enjoying these horror films and stuff before
Yeah.
those episodes started, and I just remember being super creeped out by it. And it's kind of almost like a dream when you're awake and you kind of
Uh,
think, oh, that was really scary what happened. But when you're in the middle of your busy day, you kind of forget. It's interesting. how that works.
And so
And different people experience it differently, but
did
for
you
me, it
experience
was.
it as nightmares? Or not
Well, it would be
necessarily?
like, imagine the dream that you have right before you wake up.
Uh-huh.
It's more like that.
Right.
And you may or may not remember it throughout the day. But once you really think about it and you remember the details, you remember how scary that was. And when you're in the moment, it's terrifying.
So
So
it's being awake and not being able to move, basically?
you're basically at the last stages of REM sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and you're half awake.
Mm-hmm.
So I can hear things, I can see the room, but you're also kind of hallucinating a bit. It's very lucid, and your body cannot move at all. And some people experience pressure or see shadow people, like I was trying to show in my film, and that's the kind of images that they
That
tend to
you
hallucinate.
did you
Oh,
get
just
those
across
images?
oh
Or
yeah, like shadows and kind of a lot of pressure, like as if something's on top of my chest or something.
and what do they ever, I guess they haven't figured out what this is about, or they wouldn't be documentary about it. And you
Yeah.
never were really able to diagnose anything beyond just general sleep paralysis. And were you ever told something to do to avoid it or to keep it at bay?
No, I've noticed that when I didn't sleep on my back, it didn't really happen. And when I was in college, I didn't know anything about these sleep disorders, so I was just assuming that the place was haunted or, something was happening.
Oh.
So I kind of went, and it wasn't affecting me. It wasn't like affecting my schoolwork or anything like that. So I didn't go to the doctor for it or anything. It wasn't a super extreme case where I was losing my mind or anything like that.
Right.
And we actually, I remember Monica worked for I think it was the school's HR department part-time. And the lady who worked there was a Wiccan, which was interesting because she came in and tried to bless our dorm room and all that stuff with
Did it
sage.
help?
I don't know. We felt like it did maybe, but
It's worth trying, right?
yeah, why not? But I just tried my best to like always sleep on my side. Otherwise that it was more likely to happen.
And so images from horror movies never came up, or it was never that specific. It was really just like a condition or this thing that would happen and then it would go away.
Yeah.
And you don't have nightmare things about films you've seen or anything like that? Do they come up?
No, my nightmares about different things. Like I think it's mostly about like I do have reoccurring dreams inside museums, which is interesting,
Oh, wow, that is really interesting.
or like haunted mazes. But
Mm.
but they're always really janky. I don't know why my
What does
haunted,
that mean, janky?
like like popsicle stick ghosts and like really janky stuff that I'm like, why is this scary? And then your dreams turn it into something scarier than it looks to you.
Are you thinking in the dream, why is this scary? Why is this supposed to be
Sometimes.
scary?
But then it's terrifying because I'll be like in an attic or something, and I'm like, oh, this room is supposed to be very scary for this haunted maze.
Right.
And in my dream, maybe or maybe not, there's like a pursuer or something like that, but I don't know what that is. And it changes every time. And like the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland where they put
Oh,
you in
yeah.
that little seat, and you get in that little seat that's like an egg. My little seat is always this janky office chair. I don't know why.
That's awesome.
I'm like,
Because
okay, let me
they
sit
do
down.
swivel just like office chairs. That's funny though that you dream of like cheap, not very well done haunted houses that you're
Yeah,
stuck in.
it's so cheap. I don't
Maybe
know
that's
why.
the horror of it is like, oh, this is so poorly done. Like
Yeah.
the worst thing is to be stuck inside a bad horror movie.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
like
exactly. Or like, the production design is terrible. I hate it.
That's really funny. But the museum thing is really interesting.
I think the museum is more a space that is filled with mysterious items, and if the lights are off, it's scary. I don't know.
Oh, so the museum actually shows up in a nightmare situation.
Yeah, it would be
Oh, interesting.
a mystery or something like that. It would be more, dream logic is so crazy. It's going to be difficult for me to hone it down. But the next time I have a dream, I plan on, if I can write down something in a dream journal, that would be more helpful than these little flashes and memories that I
But
have.
you do, but the museum comes up quite a bit, or it has come up over the years. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
definitely.
If you had kids, what would you show them? Would you protect them from horror? What would you show them? Or
I probably wouldn't protect. I would be very picky about what I show them first,
mm,
um, because I want them to have certain tastes, I
mm,
suppose, and to be exposed to things that I think are really worthwhile cinematically.
mm-hmm.
So I definitely wouldn't start with horror, but I would probably start with Ghibli films, like the animated Miyazaki
Right,
film oeuvre. But I would, as they got more and more adult, stuff like Beetlejuice and films like that would definitely, and see if they respond to that, and if
right,
so, I have this like vast knowledge that I could share with them. So
right.
that would be probably one of my most exciting things to do if I did have kids.
Would be introducing them to the world of cinema
Yeah, for sure.
and other art forms too. Are you into do you read horror?
Sometimes I do read. I read a lot of. I read a lot of IR 11 last year,
Mm,
and a counter argument to. I know Monica and I both think so highly of Rosemary's
yeah,
Baby, and I feel like that movie is so perfect, and it's one of the best book adaptations
yeah, right.
ever.
Because
it
they stuck to it really close, or
super close.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the book has everything laid out, and they just needed like a filmmaker that could show these images.
What's your interpretation of why you think it's such a great film, or why you think it's a near perfect film, or what's so?
I love psychological horror,
Hmm.
more because it makes me think about it longer afterwards. Uh, and the fact that most of this film is what am I trying to say, like paranoia. Um, it's mostly paranoia, and then and a lot of mundanity around her,
Hmm.
and all of that being so sinister.
Mm.
And I just love how, especially the Satanists are like these old New York like fuddy duddies
Yeah.
like in this building, and I just love how that woman who looks like like Rita Perlman is like her kid or something. She just like has this great New York accent, and they just seem like the funniest old people, and they're like the most sinister. And I love like kind of conspiracies against people, and seeing that in film and seeing it done so well, and then having all of her suspicions be uh, real.
And I know that you've talked a lot. I've heard you mention on and off about sort of focusing on the female experience in horror. How I mean, do you think this film is an example of that?
Oh yeah,
You can
definitely.
identify with her in a way based on a female experience? Would you? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, definitely. She goes through the film. She's a pregnant woman, very pregnant woman, and is so sick, and everyone's against her. And especially at the time, it was like the '60s. So I feel like that especially, and I haven't seen the remake, the TV show with Zoe Saldana.
I
I
heard
hear
it's
it's
really
no good.
bad. Yeah.
So I don't know how they would do that in a modern setting when a
Right.
woman is more empowered.
Right.
Whereas in the '60s, she's equal enough, but she's not. She's still in a time where people can say, "Oh, you're just being silly," you know what I mean,
Oh
and
yeah,
and
yeah,
just really
absolutely.
poo-poo her. And in that time period, it just feels very accurate. And
I realize that this is a subject that I want to hear more from you about. I know you'll have things to say along the way about other films that we're looking at, but do you connect more with films that are told from a female perspective? It's the ones you recommend often do, but I don't want to make any assumptions or put any words in your mouth.
that's interesting. It's not something that I intended to happen. It's something that let me think. My top movies, yeah, I think so. Um, there's The Ring, which is told through a female perspective and about a girl that had these psychic powers. There's I Love the Others, which
Yeah.
is basically an Innocence remake,
Yeah.
which is also from a female perspective. Orphanage is from I mean, that's probably not something that I thought about, but subconsciously it's something I find interesting, like as a female that is overcoming and not like a final girl type film.
Right.
That kind of stuff I don't really respond to very well.
No.
I don't really like that kind of stuff as much as I like movies like The Orphanage, where it's this mother or Babadook, where there's this mother that's, you know, going through this arc of realization, and you know, and also, you know, just the theme of mothers is interesting to me. Aliens is one that definitely has that theme.
But the kick-ass final girl doesn't appeal to you?
I mean, in Your Next, it's great, but it's not in my top films. It's hard to pin down because I haven't really thought about this before. I haven't really expressed based on my favorites, like my taste. I feel like I like films where you're inside the protagonist's head,
Right.
and when she is a female, I can identify with her a bit
Right.
more.
Yeah.
Like Black Swan is one that I'm like, oh man, she is just like going insane, and we're going on that trip with her. Rosemary's Baby, she is thinking she might be losing her mind,
Right.
and she's a very reliable narrator, and you're not sure if she is yet.
Right.
But what else? Repulsion is another one where
Yeah.
you know she's losing it, but you're with her.
Right.
Others is this mother who's protecting her kids, but she doesn't know the truth yet.
I asked Monica if she still believed in any of it, and she said, "I want to believe." What about you? You said you're open to the possibilities of other things we can't see, or
exactly. And I think, and this is something, you know, I don't know if you've seen the Conjuring.
yeah.
I think the Warrens are especially fascinating to me at this time. You know, I'm not gonna say that I believe in this or that, like definitely, because I have no idea. It could be the Matrix. I don't know what's happening right now. And I don't want to assume or put down anybody else's thoughts about what might happen. But it's Ed and Lorraine Warren are so fascinating to me, and I would recommend to you to read The Demonologists.
Is that
And it's
a biography of them?
it's all about their career in this field and how they started and different cases that they've been on. And I think they should make a series of films, and I hope that they're going to do it. I think there is a Conjuring 2, which might be a different subject, but I think the Warrens are still in this one. And if they just keep making movies based on these stories, they are creepy. So interesting to hear about. You know, don't worry about ghosts. It's just human energy. They're not going to bother you. You have to worry about demons. You know, like if there's the demonic is what is going to hurt you, whereas human ghosts would never actually physically hurt you.
So they see demons as not a representation of human things.
It's something else entirely, which is very scary and very interesting. Do I believe in it? I don't. I don't want to say for sure. I want to say I don't even want to say it's unlikely. You know, there's two different things that I believe in, because I you know, Interstellar was very interesting to me, and that the fourth dimension is something that we can't perceive, which is an interesting thought. And, you know, it could be that's what we're projecting these afterlife or religious images onto, things that we can't perceive in the dimension that we live in, which is, you know, it's even a concept that we're just, you know, using to explain the world around us, I suppose.
Sure.
I believe that people are probably much more monstrous than anything that's gonna, you know, attack me, you know, popping out of a mirror or a TV. So I don't really believe in that stuff.
But you did say you prefer the horror that is the stuff popping out of the mirror, the non realistic stuff. So it sounds to me like that offers you an opportunity to be more imaginative. Again, putting words in your mouth, that it's a more imaginative experience.
Sure. I mean, it's fantasy. I just love fantasy of all sorts.
Yeah.
Whether it's, science fiction, whether it's ghosts and demons and goblins and stuff, or if it's, high fantasy like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones.
You like all that stuff pretty much equally?
I would definitely say I see a cute dog back there.
You can see her.
Yeah. I think I like, as long as the craft is made well, I tend to like things that are darker than other people agree upon. I guess I tend to like tragedy over anything else. So maybe that's
because Monica said she likes to see people overcome the horror. Like she's getting more interested in that, and you actually, in some ways, also like to see people not overcome or things not end well.
I think the movies like The Mist have amazing endings.
Yeah.
If you've seen that one, or movies like Black Swan, and movies like let me think here. I mean, The Others is a great example.
Yeah, and same thing with The Innocents in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, just utterly tragic endings. I feel more for them than when I have this like super neat and tidy ending. Yeah. I just tend to gravitate towards films with more of an edge.
You have a more operatic taste or more melodrama taste. I mean, in a good way. Yeah. Interesting. All right, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for talking.
Absolutely. This was so much fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Is there anything else you wanted to say or anything about the roots of your interest in horror that we didn't mention?
Let me think. I had a small thought just a couple of minutes ago, but what was it?
But I talked over it.
Oh, no, it's fine. Revisiting what my favorites are. I think madness is always an element. Madness tends to be an element to it, whether it's them thinking that they're going mad and it's something actually supernatural happening, or like The Shining is one of my favorites, and that's one that is an example that isn't from a female perspective.
Right, yeah.
That I really enjoy. I don't know, I'm really interested in that, and I think something that I kind of was thinking about recently, a bigger fear of mine is kind of Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Forgetfulness is super scary to me, more than even madness in a more traditional sense. Just that's probably my greatest fear.
Yeah. And Monica said that once when we were talking about Life After Beth, about her boyfriend, who I guess has had experience with it, saw that character as not being a zombie, but being somebody who's lost, who's suffering from like an Alzheimer's type disease. And you don't even think about that so many of these movies, the monsters can be actual people who have like serious disorders, and it's like it makes them a lot more scary actually when you think about it in those terms.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's interesting, and maybe that's part of what we're dealing with or what we're sort of processing when we do watch these films. Interesting. There was some, damn it, now I just thought of something I wanted to ask you or mention. Another book that I think you'd really like is House of Psychotic Women. Have you heard of this book?
No, I haven't.
I'll send you links and you can read the descriptions, and I think that would be another book. Because that's written by a woman who's like a film scholar, but she also had trouble with her own mental health, and how she said watching all these movies about crazy women, mostly horror movies, a lot of them are obscure, really helped her kind of understand what was going on with herself and sort of the world of women going crazy. But in a good way, in an empowering way, maybe.
Okay. No, I'm totally interested.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to that too. So thanks again. So.